first area I'd like to cover is around, well, firstly, the importance of joint business planning and how best to support partners to drive the execution of those business plans. So I know, having worked closely with you at Juniper, you guys do a really great job. You've done a huge amount of work on it over the years. But just for the audience, maybe if you could share a little bit about, you know, how you do that at Juniper, what you see as best practice, and I suppose, Jessica, for the audience, some of the challenges, because you know this was done over many months. Some of the challenges you faced along the way. That would be great if you could share.
Yeah, no, thank you. And this is actually really interesting timing for us because we're transitioning, as you know, and I'll talk a little bit about that as well. But, you know, we see joint business plans as a strategic element of all of our partnerships. They help align objectives, obviously, at the front end, set very clear expectations, and then kind of create that shared vision for growth. And ultimately, you know, we do feel it strengthens our partnerships. It really drives that accountability you mentioned on both sides of the plan. It also helps us ensure that our resources, you know, people, joint investments, that they're utilized most effectively. And for me, maybe the most important piece is that it gives us that ability to measure results, success, and kind of track ROI in a consistent way across our ecosystem. It's a lot less subjective. And for our top tier partners, kind of as you mentioned in the poll question, having that joint business plan is a requirement of the top tier of our partner program. We do roll it out with all of our partners, but it's not a programmatic requirement until you get to that top tier. And it really ensures that everyone's kind of prepared to hit the ground running in January, which is the beginning of our year, and that we're fully aligned on those targets and those investments going into the year. And we've kind of set that framework for the full year. And we're not, you know, we do revisit every quarter, but it's not, you know, a new, well, how much money do we have every quarter? Everything is really set for the year. And historically, we did use spreadsheets, you know, as I think many people do. And we've also used various reporting dashboards in different places, right, that kind of help us track those business plans. And while those have been great tools and they've worked just fine, it was still very time consuming and complex for us. And it was very manual for us to manage. Plans are heavily dependent on people, on human touch, and very resource intensive. To create those historical views or pull in reporting from different systems and views. And plus, as you can imagine, change management, version control, that's always fun when you're dealing with the spreadsheet, right? Sending things back and forth. So most recently, you know, as we're kind of moving into our new year, we're migrating to this platform approach, you know, this automated platform approach with you all, which is really exciting for us. And that automates the entire process for us of the joint business planning. It's, you know, we feel it does create a strategic advantage with both our partners and our account teams because it's delivering that time savings that we've kind of talked about. That automation cuts down on a lot of that manual effort that we're putting into the front end, you know, to create those baselines. The collaboration piece is huge because our partners can work real time with our account teams to more effectively, you know, share plans and work on the plans together rather than, again, sending things back and forth. It's all on that joint platform. And then, as we talked about, streamlining it, where from the beginning, you know, we can pre-populate some of these things. A lot of our data, it's all integrated now to that one pane of glass, that one view, and also the reporting's in that same view. So it's not build a plan here, go check this dashboard there. It's all in one view, and it's really end-to-end for us. So we're really excited, you know, about this new platform and kind of that enhanced partner experience as we prepare to launch our new year.
That's great, Jessica. Geez, there's a lot in there. So in a short space of time. Yeah, and some of the things that kind of resonated with me is, you know, how you do the ROI on it. That's really important. And for some people, you know, having a business plan as a key element of their top tier. Again, it's all well and good having it as the tier, but how do you prove they do it? So now, because when you give them a top tier, you're giving them a lot of additional benefits, be it discount, extra MDF dollars, rebates, etc. So I think that kind of conveys the importance of it. And the very last piece you mentioned, I think is really, really important, is it's end-to-end. So it's not just setting a target, it's actually using the data from the source to show how you're tracking against the target. No longer is it a person, it's now a data-driven business plan. I think that's really, really good, Jessica. So thanks. So yeah, Rick and Seán, I'm sure a lot of that resonates with you guys, Rick especially, in terms of the execution. Rick, anything you want to, or Seán, anything you guys would like to chime in on the whole execution piece?
Yeah, I would like to. It's kind of funny when we were looking at the questions there, right? I could have checked every box in my journey, right, through the process of business plans. And I think what Jessica said, which really hit home is, when it's a manual process and you're working through spreadsheets and PowerPoints, which we've all done, there's just so many places where, it's manual, it's intensive, and then there's just so many things that can fall down when you're communicating that, right? You're going to have multiple people in the room for a Broadcom perspective, right? You're talking salespeople, you're talking marketing people, you're talking enablement people, you got different divisional folks. So if you're not automating this process eventually, you're doing a lot of work. And once again, my biggest thing with business plans that I've seen throughout my years too, right, is it's a living, breathing document, or it should be, right? So once again, when you automate that process and you have that data there, then you can continue to change with your business, right? And update that stuff and make sure everybody's on the same page instead of trying to figure out who's got what spreadsheet, what PowerPoint, what's the latest and greatest, and all those other pieces with it. But once again, we've all kind of lived through that process, and the manual piece of it is just very challenging, and the different ways that you can do it. And we're pretty excited to be using the platform from Channel Mechanics and automating this process as we go forward, because just keeping up with it from an enablement perspective is challenging. From a program perspective, like Jessica, it's even 10 times harder, right? I have my pieces. I played in the program side of it for a long time, but when you start to try to, coordinate all this, make sure you're on the same page with your partners, it's just really, really challenging if you haven't had the automation or the data in the right places.
Yeah, I know that's so true, Rick. Like, honestly, that is the nub of it, isn't it? Like the inefficient way of doing it manually, basically. It's a killer just on human resource and not being able to track it and not keeping up, and people having different views of the world, etc. It just kills, it takes a lot of the goodness out of what you try to achieve. Seán, anything to add?
No, just maybe a quick question for Jessica. From moving to the platform from the way that you were doing it, was there any resistance internally? And if there was, how did you get over that resistance?
Yeah, I mean, there's always resistance to change, right? Because there just is, and I get it because I resist change, from time to time, because there is that enablement piece, right? I'm sure Rick knows as well, right? You spend a lot of time enabling people on one way of doing things, and they finally get comfortable, and then you transition to something else. So it's always challenging right in the beginning, but we've got a very, very robust enablement plan, right, to move people to this new process. We always kind of focus internal first, right, and then we move external to make sure our partners feel comfortable as well. But do I think that the first year is going to be perfect? No, it's not. But do I think year 2 is going to be exponentially better? Absolutely. So it's definitely worth it. And I think as partners and our internal teams see what they get to work with throughout the year, not just from that front end planning, but kind of to the points made, kind of managing it throughout the year, realizing it's all kind of here rather than, Jessica, where's my report? I can't remember where it is. I think then they'll really see the value of moving to this platform.
Yeah, that's always the challenge, isn't it? The status quo and getting people comfortable with the new process. So, yep, thanks for that.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that before we move on, that's internally, Seán. Like, we see it with hundreds of our customers, hundreds of vendors globally. Partners actually embrace it. Sometimes it's the, Rick and Jessica, people like you that have to embrace, or not embrace, you guys have to actually drive the change and get your teams to embrace it. That can be a challenge. So yeah, it's a really good point, Seán. Thanks.